Hey everyone, and welcome to Might I Add. I'm Kyle Partain, and today we'll be talking about a UCF night in the Pro Bowl, a recent national championship that was won by UCF, and how the men's and women's basketball teams are trending in different directions. And joining me here today is HCF vet and Might I Add legend Chris Wolf. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Just ready to talk about some UCF sports, man, over the weekend. It was all
Absolutely.
good.
One of our favorite things to talk about, UCF sports. All right, Chris, well, let's get things started off with the Pro Bowl. This year's edition brought a lot of local interest because of UCF's own Shaquille Griffin. He was selected to play in the game for the first time in his young career. Griffin had a nice game overall, notching 3 tackles in his time on the field. So, Chris, what do you think of Griffin's performance?
I mean, he did some good things in the game. Obviously he didn't get a lot of minutes because he was just a reserve, and usually the reserves don't get a ton of time. But it was just great to see him in this game because he went from somebody that maybe could be an average. Everyone thought maybe he could be an average corner. He didn't start for part of his rookie year. Then Richard Sherman goes down with the ruptured Achilles, and that put him in the starting role. And ever since then, he's always done is go up every single season, improving every year, and going from a backup to a Pro Bowl in 3 years. That is really good. And he's only the third DB ever to get from UCF to get selected to the Pro Bowl, joining Asante Samuel and AJ Boye. I thought that was
Jags.
great.
Go Jags,
I
AJ
thought
Boye.
that was great.
Yeah, no, it was really great. He did get the most out of his time on the field, and he made an impact this season with the Seahawks. And you will take that a step further. You talked about his success each season, and that's kind of what this week was about for him. It was about more than just playing in a game for Griffin, and it was all about proving that he is elevating his own game each and every season. So, Chris, I know you touched on this a little bit already, but tell me why you think Griffin has improved each season.
He just puts his work in the offseason. He's getting healthier. He gets more fit, and he's just able to play more snaps. Because any game he plays, he doesn't come out of the game. He just doesn't. He just continues to be aggressive. He plays great man-to-man coverage. He made the Pro Bowl without getting an interception this season. That is very tough to do in a stat-driven league. He was also he had 13 pass deflections, 12, 13 pass deflections. That was top 16 in the league. He played great defense. He may not be the ball hawker like some of these players are, like Richard Sherman, that gets all the takeaways, but he will just do his assignment. He will stick to his assignment, and he doesn't get thrown out a lot too. Because in most games, it's they usually attack Trey Flowers, Ugo Amadi from Seattle. They'll attack those corners. They'll leave Griffin alone. And I think that shows respect. The quarterbacks in this league are showing him a lot of respect, in my opinion.
And that's a really good thing because, again, his game at this rate is only going to continue to elevate. And you know what? Also at ESPN's Wild World Sports, it has been a very, very busy week for UCF sports. To go along with the Pro Bowl and Griffin's participation there, the UCF cheerleading team also competed in the 2020 Division 1A National Championship there. The Knights went up against teams like Alabama and defending champions Kentucky Wildcats. In the end, UCF pulled off a major victory and won the championship, which earned their 3rd in program history. So, Chris, how was the team able to pull off this victory?
Just simple. You got to be better than everyone else, and that was you know how tough that is to beat Kentucky. What was that, 3, 4?
I think it was 3 or 4 in a row. Yeah.
3, 4 in a row. That is unbelievable. This is the first time since 2007 we won it. So, and we beat Bama. We all have the history of Bama. We want to be better than Bama, and we finally did it.
Yeah,
that was
very
super
exciting.
impressive.
It was an impressive thing, and you can really tell their drive and motivation has just been really present since last year's floor routine champions. And the team really showed that they are capable of not only winning for themselves, but winning for UCF's program. And that's our next topic of conversation here, is that UCF, that performance, gives a lot of credibility to the growth of the of the athletic department in general. Just how much does this kind of win help UCF both in cheerleading and overall with athletics moving forward?
I think it helps a lot because adding it's one thing to win, to get good wins and have good seasons. National championships, that's what builds your brand in any sport, no matter what it is. So being national champions for a third time for cheerleading, that's big. I mean, that puts us as a top-end cheerleading team in the country, because not a lot of teams even get one. We have 3 for this. It's really good. We named ourselves national champions in football, but we were the only undefeated team. I think that also put the football team on the map. Our basketball team going toe-to-toe with maybe one of the greatest Duke teams of all time. That puts us on the map. Those times put on the map. But this national championship, it's a step in the right direction in all sports, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. We've seen this athletic department grow and get more and more competitive very recently. However, guys, from one court to another, we'll take our focus to UCF basketball. Both the men's and women's teams are approaching the midway points of the conference play. And while both have somewhat lackluster conference records, the two teams do seem to be trending in opposite directions. The men's team, which started the season 9-2, sits at just 2-5 in conference play. Meanwhile, the women's team sits at 3-3, but has several convincing wins as of late and looks the part of conference contenders. So, Chris, we'll start things off with the men's team. Why is the team unable to finish games?
It's just the inability to make shots, because their offense can get rolling at times, but also it can just go flat. And I saw their bench played very well against Wichita State. I mean, their 2 top scorers from that game were off the bench because Colin Smith, 15 minutes, 2 points, fouled out. Dazon Ingram, 6 points, 30 minutes, fouled out. So 2 of the top players just fouled out and didn't really have a big impact on the game. And that's really tough against a really good Wichita State team on the road. And you're trying to rely on like younger players to make a difference against a veteran team in Wichita State. And we've seen it all season. Oklahoma led at halftime, led in the second half, blew the game. Temple led in the second half, led at half, led in the second half, blew the game. Had their chances against SMU, blew it. Gets Penn. Foot was on the line on a game-tying 3. Lost the game by 1. It's been all season they've been doing it.
And it just comes down to smart basketball, guys. It's just UCF not quite at that IQ to be able to win those kinds of close games. As for the women's team, though, the offense has started to click, and 3 players can be given the majority of that credit. KK Wright, Brittany Smith, and Georgia Gale have the offense firing on all cylinders right now. Of those 3 players, though, which is the most important to this team?
It's got to be KK, because she is the leader of this team. She's the leading scorer. She also gets the assists. She gets everyone involved. She just had 21 points, career had 12 assists. And she has just been playing very great. She's added the 3 ball to her game, because last year she was mostly just a mid-range person. She stepped behind the line, and now she's making some threes. And I think what's also going to help this team, I think moving Georgia Gale to the bench is going to help them, because it gives them a bench scoring. It gives them shooting on the bench, because she leads the team in 3-point percentage and makes. She makes 42, which is close to half or so of all their threes on the season. So that's a lot of offense. They could give you a boost off the bench when you're struggling. You can go to someone that has started like that 6-man. She's in that 6-man role. I think that's also very important. And even though the record might be, they still have close games against UCLA. That's a big-time team. They were tied late in that game. UConn, that was only their 2nd win ever in the AAC by single digits in a conference game. That means something. Even though you lost the game, that means something. And then the last 2 games you played against UConn, you've held them under 60. You're going way under their season average.
Yeah.
So that should be a good thing. We're moving in the right direction despite the maybe 3-3 conference record. And this team is continuing to look really good, especially offensively. They're starting to shoot the ball better, and I think it's going to continue, because I think their schedule is fairly favorable in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. The schedule is very favorable in the second half of the conference play. But guys, that's all the time we've got for UCF basketball right now. But before we wrap things up here, we've got several big games for our various nights this week. The men's basketball team is going to host Memphis on Wednesday before playing at USF on Saturday. And the women's basketball team is going to travel to Temple on Wednesday, but host SMU on Saturday. Also in action this weekend are both the men's and women's tennis teams. The men's tennis team is going to travel to Wake Forest on Friday and stay on the road at Virginia on Sunday. The women's golf team, however, is going to play 2 home games this weekend, with Florida State coming to Orlando on Friday and Texas A&M on Sunday. Well, guys, that wraps up everything here. Thanks for everyone that tuned in for today's episode of Might I Add. Be sure to tune in to various Mondays at noon to see our very own Jarrett Kappelman and the crew bring you our biggest content in sports. And of course, you don't want to miss our weekly HTF podcasts. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at Hitting the Field to keep up with what's happening here at HTF. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Kyle Partain. He's Chris Wolf, and we'll catch you next week on Might I Add.